This week, Ed Skoudis from the SANS Technology Institute is with us to discuss the SANS Holiday Hack Challenge for 2025. Then in the security news, Asus, Dashcam botnets, weird CVEs being issued, CodeRED but not the worm, free IP checking, internet space junk in IoT, decade-old Linux kernel vulnerabilities, breaking out of Claude code, malicious LLMs, hacker on a plane gets 7 years in prison, putting passwords into random websites, NPM supply chains strike again, and LLMs will never be intelligent. All that and more on this episode of Paul's Security Weekly. This is a Security Weekly production for security professionals by security professionals. Please visit securityweekly.com/subscribe to subscribe to all the shows on our network. Broadcasting live from G-Unit Studios in Rhode Island, it's the show where exploits run wild, packets aren't the only things getting sniffed, and the cocktails flow steady. It's Paul's Security Weekly. Ransomware, supply chain attacks, 0 days. Cyber threats don't wait, and neither should your defenses. With ThreatLocker, you're not just reacting to threats, you're stopping them before they start. ThreatLocker's zero-trust endpoint protection locks down your environment with pinpoint control over what's allowed to run and what's not. No guesswork, no blind spots, just proactive, built-for-now security that keeps your business moving. Want to see how a true default deny strategy works? Head over to securityweekly.com/ThreatLocker and take the first step towards shutting the door on threats before they even knock. Ever feel like your network infrastructure is stuck in the past? Meet Meter, the company reimagining what it means to get and stay online. Meter delivers full-stack networking, wired, wireless, and cellular, all in one seamless, scalable, and secure solution. From hardware design and firmware to software, deployment, and support, Meter streamlines every part of your network while giving you all the control and transparency you need. Whether you're managing a branch office, retail stores, or a massive data center, Meter gives you performance, reliability, and the visibility you need to stay in control. Thanks to Meter for sponsoring. Go to securityweekly.com/Meter to book a demo now. That's securityweekly.com/Meter, METER. Coming to you live from the Hacker Syndicate Studios, this is Paul's Security Weekly. It's episode number 903, being recorded on Wednesday, December 3rd, 2025. I'm, of course, your host, Paul Asadorian, joined by Mr. Jeff Mann. Jeff, welcome.
Happy to be here. It got cold outside. Brr.
It did.
So I'm inside today.
Mandy Logan is here with us.
Yes, and Friday a listener reached out and asked if I would join a team for the Hackfest. And I was glad because they actually brought up that there were new features they were excited about. So I'm so glad Ed is here to discuss that.
That's great. Me too.
Love it.
Sam Bound is here with us. Sam, welcome.
Good morning. Glad to be with you.
Mr. Lee Neely.
Hey, welcome from chilly Idaho.
And another one from Idaho, the triumphant return of Mr. Tyler Robinson. Tyler, good to see you, man.
Good to see you guys. Missed you.
Tyler, who?
Yes, it's awesome. Glad you could make it.
The dungeon, so we're back.
We, of course, have Mr. Ed Skoudis with us, who has influenced so many of us in the cybersecurity industry, ourselves included, and he continues to do so in his role at SANS, as well as with the SANS Holiday Hack Challenge. Ed, welcome back to Paul's Security Weekly.
Thank you. It's so good to see you all again, my friends. I really look forward to being on the show each year to share with you what we've been working on for the previous year and to catch up with all you folks, your dear friends.
Absolutely.
It's a delight to see you.
I love picking your brain, Ed. I love it.
Likewise.
Such a great conversation every time. So it's exciting. You know, this. So how many years have you been doing the SANS Holiday Hack Challenge?
22 years now.
Wow.
And it was in 2015 that we put together our first in-game world where you had a little avatar and you could hop around. So this is 2025 now. So this is our 11th installment, but it's a 10th anniversary of doing an in-game world. And what this year's Holiday Hack Challenge, the storyline, is it's the sequel to Holiday Hack 2015. Holiday Hack 2015, it was called Gnome in Your Home. And the idea was you'd buy these little gnomes, parents would, and they sold a couple million of them. And you put them in your house because it's like Elf on the Shelf. And parents were encouraged to move them around. And in 2015, these gnomes were IoT devices that were actually taking pictures with a camera in their eye and using the local Wi-Fi to send them to crowdsourced burglars who are going to steal everything on Christmas Eve. That was 2015. And of course, people played Holiday Hack Challenge and solved that. So, the whole plot was foiled. Well, in 2025, those 2 million little gnomes gathering dust in attics and in basements and such came to life one day, and they started running around town again. And you have to figure out what they're up to. There's a nefarious plot and figure out who's behind it. So it's really exciting for us because we're kind of revisiting that old stuff, but also with brand new technologies, brand new ideas, a bunch of AI, all kinds of cool stuff. So if you didn't play Holiday Hack 2015, that's totally fine. You could play 2025 and you'll be ready to roll.
Kind of sounds a lot like Paul copying code, though. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Well, the
object reused.
Well, we redrew everything because now you can draw it so much more easily. So we redrew everything, but we were kind of inspired by the ideas and music of that, and then to take the story and pick up where it left off. So
yeah, I love that. Like I'm envisioning a trailer of like these bots waking up from a 10-year sleep to do.
Wait, so we had sentience in 2015? Is that what you're saying? AI actually was a thing back then?
No. Well, I mean, AI was a thing back then. It just wasn't as dominant as it is today. But yeah, something got into those gnomes and brought them back. Something got into
I like how it's
back.
like the gnomes are back, and this time they're angry.
They are angry. You know what we're calling it? So Holiday Hack 2015 was called Gnome in Your Home.
Mm-hmm.
And Holiday Hack 2025 is called Revenge of the Gnomes. And you kind of have to say it like that. Yeah, Revenge of the Gnomes.
Don't you need to scratch it out and make it Return of the Gnomes?
Yeah, once they went Sith, I think we could put Revenge in there. And these gnomes they're pretty nasty little beasts.
Okay.
Oh no!
Cool.
Are
If only
we back to Ed as Josh's father?
Remember that, Josh? Right? I am your father.
That's fun.
So the story sounds awesome as always. You guys put it's so much work into the story. I love that aspect of it, Ed.
Thank you.
But what about the technology and the gameplay? How's that evolved in the past year?
Oh, the gameplays. We try to introduce new game dynamics every year. Something new, something fun, something interesting to make it more accessible to more people. So, last year, one of the things that we did for the first time is we released a month early. If you go back to, holiday hacks from 10, 15, 20 years ago, we always released the second week of December. This year, we released the first week of November, just like we did last year. So that's cool. You got an extra month to play on it. So people can play right now. So please go and play, have fun. It's entirely free. You'll learn great cybersecurity skills. So that's one thing that we kept from last year. A thing that we dropped from last year is when we released it in 4 separate installments.
Chunks. Mm-hmm.
You get one chunk, and then a week later you get another chunk, and a week later you get another chunk. This year we just released the whole thing. It's just all out there at once because people would say to us, "Hey, I played for an hour, and I got to the end of your current content, and I had another hour, but I couldn't play anymore, so I had to wait. And next week I don't have any time." So now the whole thing launched at once, which was operationally very hard for us to get everything out the door all at once, but we did. So that was cool. Another thing that we added last year that we kept is playthrough mode. So if you get stuck on a challenge, you just click playthrough and it advances the story and you come back and do it later. So that's kind of cool. We have a scoreboard. Oh, we have cohorts. So you could play with, against some of your friends. Mandy, you had mentioned you're going to be playing. You could set up a cohort. It's self-service cohort. You just go and say, create a cohort, give it a unique name. It'll give you a cohort join code. Share that with your friends and you'll all have your own same scoreboard. So that's kind of cool.
That's awesome. So it's like a team feature now.
It really is neat. It's not so much a team, although you can play it as a team, but it's more like measure yourself against your friends. That's why we call it.
Okay. So you get like a scoreboard with just your friends. Yeah.
So go over with just your friends, or you could, team it up, but we call it that. But now here's stuff that you got to see that's really cool. One of the things we did this year is we focused on micro challenges. The idea is we have 15 challenges, each of which takes 5 to 15 minutes to do. Micro challenges. So that way you get a quick learning objective done. You get a dopamine hit. You're feeling pretty good. You roll through a bunch of those micro challenges. We also have what we call capstone challenges. And capstone challenges, they may take an hour or more, and they're very complex. And they're easily labeled. You'll be able to see the more complex ones. So the idea is if you're new to cyber, if you're just jumping in, play the micro challenges, you're going to have fun with it. Even if you know a lot of stuff in cyber, you'll still find some things to learn in the micro challenges. But then for those who really want to get down and dirty, we got the capstone challenges. And then we've got something that my team has wanted to do for the last 10 years, but I've always said no.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. And this year I said, let's try it and see what happens. And I was surprised at how it turned out. So, Holiday Hack is this whole little world that I'd like to show you in a couple of minutes. It's a little world where you have avatars and you're hopping around and you're solving cybersecurity challenges and puzzles and such. And there's music and there's all this sugar dumped on top of it to make it kind of fun and interesting. A giant multiplayer online game with cybersecurity challenges. My team said we would like to introduce CTF mode. CTF mode is capture the flag mode.
Right.
So that's for people who don't want all of the avatars and the world and the music and Santa Claus and the elves. Instead, you just want really high quality challenges. They're the same challenges that are integrated into the world, but if you go into CTF mode, you just see the challenges and you get to solve them. And I was against CTF mode for 10 years because I thought, what differentiates Holiday Hack is this fun social world and interaction with other people.
Right. It's not just another CTF. And you were like, I don't want to be just another CTF.
I don't want to be just another CTF. I want to be different from that. So my team said, well, what if we add CTF mode? Because there are some people who just want the CTF. And I said, let's try it. And here's what's happened. We find that people will jump in the world and they'll hop around a little bit and then they'll go to a challenge and then they'll go to CTF mode and they'll solve that challenge and they'll really focus. And then they go back into what we call traditional mode and they hop around the world a little bit more and then they go back into CTF mode. So they're jumping in and out of CTF mode as a means of focusing. And people seem to really be liking it. So I was wrong about CTF mode. We tried it, we're open-minded, try and experiment with it. But we're really trying to get more and more people to participate in this. That's what the micro challenges are all about. CTF mode is trying to get people who just want a CTF. Hey, play our challenge. I think you'll like it, right? And you know what I always say to people, just give us 15 minutes. We promise you'll get a little smile out of it, maybe a laugh, and you'll learn something. And
I think people could be intimidated by it, Ed, and not want to play because they might get stuck on a challenge.
Yeah.
Can you give us an example of a challenge from a previous one?
Oh, sure.
Just so people aren't intimidated, right?
Right.
I think it's knowing you and your team, you've made it so that beginners and experts can have a good time, which is the most. I think the most challenging thing of a CTF or game like this.
So let me give you some examples that are actually from this year's Holiday Hack Challenge. We have one on networking fundamentals where you get a visualization of an IP packet and have to indicate certain things and read certain things from it. We also have a little firewall tutorial thing where you set up firewalls and do simple configurations of them. These are all micro challenges. We've got some web application pen testing in there. We've got SQL injection as well as IDOR. We've got some stuff in there about insecure cloud blob storage. But each one of these challenges, and there's, like I said, over 15 of the micro challenges, teaches one or two ideas. Oh, and we load it up with hints. There's one other thing I got to tell you about. We introduced a holographic Santa Claus this year. So there's a little icon on the side of the screen. I'll show it to you. You click on it. And you know how in Star Wars, when they're talking to each other, and they look like holographs, right? They're sort of like blue ghosts kind of with a certain pixelation or rasterization. You click the button in Santa Claus.
It was special effects, Ed.
Special effects, yeah. So we have that this year. You click a button and the Santa Claus is there and he gives you hints and he also tells you what other challenges are nearby you as you walk around. So that's another thing that we introduced this year. But there's a lot of challenges that are wide open for people who are brand new to cyber, people who might feel intimidated, don't feel intimidated. Come around, hop around, with the gnomes and your fellow players. We have a Discord channel that is very active. There's a separate channel for each one of the challenges. And there's people there that they're there to help. They give hints away. And then of course, Santa, he'll hint you as much as you want. You just keep clicking the hint button and Santa will give you those. So
it's interesting, Ed. I was talking with Mandy yesterday. I know she had to run, she had to drop, but we were talking yesterday about what would it look like advice on breaking into cybersecurity today. And one of the things that I thought from a technical standpoint is to familiarize yourself with a bunch of different technologies.
Yeah.
Right. We all have seasoned, we've been around for 20 plus years. We have operating systems that we like. But I'm like, if you're just getting started out, you may not know what you like and what you don't. So have Windows, have Linux, have Android, have iOS, and just set them up and play around with them. And then you might find your niche from there. And it sounds like, which is awesome, that the SANS Holiday Hack Challenge is the same thing. You gave some examples, and it went from networking to web app pen testing to cloud storage blobs. So this is another great opportunity to go, I'm going to spend, maybe it takes me longer than 15 minutes, but I'm going to try and come up to speed. And that lets people say, hey, I really like this cloud stuff. Maybe I want to dig into that more. I think that's really important in getting people into our field.
That's exactly what we're trying to do. Get people exposed to a whole bunch of different things: digital forensics, reverse engineering malware, identity token analysis and hacking, because identity tokens are so important these days. We have a challenge. I've never seen a challenge like this in any CTF or cyber range. It's about a pen test scope. You are given a scope for a pen test. It's a web app pen test. And then you have to apply that scope to do the web app pen test and stay in scope. And if you deviate from, and it's very tempting to deviate from the scope. And if you deviate from the scope, I'm sorry, you can't win. You have to go back and start again. Just showing the importance of reading your scope carefully, thinking through what the implications are. It's a brand new type of challenge that we're experimenting with this year, and people seem to find it quite interesting.
That's a really good one, honestly. Like between ethics and scope creep or scope overreach. Yeah. Those are both real world things that we've learned from decades of experience, but having something to practice that and like see what it looks like when before it actually comes up in a real world scenario. That's pretty clever.
Yeah, because I think it helps bug bounty hunters too, because you really got to stick within the rules of the bug bounty. And
if you want to get paid, if you want to get paid. Mm-hmm. And so we try, experiments like, hey, let's see what we could do with this kind of challenge, or we've never seen anybody do that. I'm really interested in the post-quantum cryptography stuff, because essentially it's just using a separate set of crypto algorithms and making sure you've got, the appropriate Wireshark components installed to be able to analyze them and so forth. It's, and we're already working on Holiday Hack 2026, but the 2025 corpus of challenges, I think you're going to love. You got to check it out.
Hey, Ed, I don't know if we've asked this question before, but is there a way to earn CPEs from participating in the hack challenge?
Yep. No way.
They are definitely, you can earn CPEs and you claim them just as you would with any other CTF. And of course, the GIAC folks are on board with this, as are the other consumers of CPEs, if you want to call it that. So absolutely. And that's been that way for Holiday Hack since its inception, really.
Oh, cool. I don't know if we've ever brought that up before, but
that's a really good point.
Especially as we're talking about, having people that might be new to the industry getting into it. One of the big complaints is I have to have experience to get a beginner role, but this is one way that they can do it. Also, as a quick aside, Larry Pesce gives his regards to you.
That's great. Tell him I said hello.
Yeah, he couldn't make it today.
I miss him.
I have a question about the time. Like, if you're getting feedback on people having a longer time span for completing the hack challenges. Now, I think back to 2018 was the first time I really went through the hack challenges with Shadow Syndicate in Vegas, and good hacker group.
Nice.
And it was very much of like, okay, we have 8 days. We're going to do all of this right now, and across everybody's schedules, across everything else that was going on. So I'm curious, like, what are you seeing or noticing now with having a longer time frame available?
It turns out that people are just time shifting it. So people who want to spend December with their families, all their spare time, they're doing it in November now. And it's very much bifurcated. So it's a similar number of people, maybe a few more, but stretched out now over 2 months. And but people, it's not like they'll say, okay, I have whatever the number of days is, 57 days to play, as opposed to in the past I had 30 days to play. What they're doing is still spending about the same amount of time per person, and they're not even distributing it. It's still bunched, right, as it is, which is fine though. It gives people more options, and that's what we want to do, is to give people more options to learn and to have fun. The whole thing is to, we call it SANS gift to the community, because we want to give this away, have people play it, and another thing that we added last year that we kept this year is you can authenticate to it using your SANS portal ID, of course. However, if you haven't set up a SANS portal ID, you can authenticate it using your Holiday Hack ID, which could be completely separate from your SANS one, or you can authenticate to it using X, or you can authenticate to it using Google. So we want to lower the barriers of entry, just to say, come in and play. And we want to make it, very inclusive. You don't have to have like the most powerful computer to play this thing. We want to really make sure the performance is reasonable for any computer 3 or 4, maybe 5 years old. We want it to be family friendly. So Lee, it turns out that phones, while it does work on the phone, it's just a terrible hacking platform. The keyboard just isn't what you need to, you've had Linux experiences on, the iPhone or Android keyboard. It's not all that great. So you can log in and hop around and bring up terminals and such, but we really recommend people use a computer. Chrome is the best browser for it, although it does support other browsers, Firefox, etc. But yeah, we want to get as many people in, and we don't want, there's humor in it, but the humor is very clean and silly and family friendly because people play this with their children, right? And we want to make sure that they feel comfortable doing that. Can I show it?
Yeah. I do want to say, Ed, while you bring that up, Ed, so I advise that people set some time limits for themselves because I think that mimics real world experiences, right? Because when you have a pen test or you're doing security research, like each one of those is like a CTF, right? Like thinking of I don't
quit talking, Paul. We want to see it.
Yeah, you're gonna keep people in suspense, right? Like I don't do a lot of CTFs because now I get projects at work, which is kind of like a CTF, but they have some time constraints. So I do recommend that people set some time constraints for themselves because that's what it's going to be like in the real world.
That's right. Yeah. And just have fun with it. I hope it makes you laugh a little bit, makes you smile. Can I show you?
Yeah, let's do it.
Right. They're from Missouri. Show us.
Okay, let me show you the screen here. Holiday Hack Challenge. I'm logged into the game. I think you can all see that now.
Yep.
See my avatar's there. I'm hopping sort of the lower left of the screen. It says Real Ed Skoudis above my name.
Yeah,
got it.
You see the little things that are all running around, right? Those are the gnomes.
Those are the gnomes,
right? There's all these little gnomes running around doing their thing. It's the first time we've had non-player characters that are actually randomly running around the game. There's one up there that looks like the gremlin. Do you see him at the top of the screen?
Yeah.
Well, they were in 2015, but something has happened to them. You'll have to check it out. So we also incorporated, my team, the counter hack team, because we build this for SANS. So here you can see Jared Folkins waving, and you click on Jared. You got to click on the right screen, and he talks to you. And we've got sound here, so there's music and ambient background. And Jared. How cool is that? See, so Jared's there giving you advice and stuff, and you click on this little thing, and it shows you the challenge here, and here's your client DNS request going to DNS server, et cetera, and then it's just this fantastic little environment to learn in and have fun in. Oh, let me share this.
Ed, what is the terminal? I'm curious what the terminal looks like if you pop into a challenge. Like, what is that?
Some of them look like command line terminals, and some of them look like what you're seeing here.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah. So let me stop sharing. Let me go back here and share again. Because I don't think we've ever shared this on the screen before.
No, we haven't. This is exciting.
Screen. Oh, the heck. There we go. All right. So I can jump around, and then you see that the sort of yellow glowing thing up there. Oh, watch this. You got to see this. This is something we added this year. So you can twist the game around by using the Q and E keys. So the whole world revolves now.
Oh, that's awesome.
That is sweet.
Yeah, isn't that cool? And then you go, I'm going to go in here, and here's another person from my team. That's Maurice up there. And so he's got a terminal. Let's see, what does his terminal do? Whoa. Oh, got to wait till Act 2. So that one, you have to unlock certain things. Let me show you the holographic Santa. Do you see on the left-hand side of the screen here?
Oh, yeah.
There's this little Santa icon. Watch what happens when I click on him. There he is. That's holographic awesome. Santa. Ho, 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 and welcome to Holiday Hack Challenge. And the little holographic Santa can give you hints and such, and he follows you around. You can, of course, turn him off by just clicking over here again. But that was just another way for us to inject more hints into the game. And as you know, so these other avatars that you see here, Cybernome, and I don't even know what that other one is. Those are players.
There's that weird guy that hangs up in your secret room.
How about that? Yes. I told you I put my entire team in the game. Well, that includes me because I'm part of my team. However, there's a fun little thing. When you get to the end of the game, Santa Claus appears with the rest of my team. Not holographic Santa, actual Santa. But I'm not there. So you can never see Santa and me in the game at the same time.
Let's start those rumors going.
So I'm in here. I was thinking you got Jack to come out of retirement.
Yeah. So let's see. So the real Ed Skoudis is standing next to the virtual Ed Skoudis, and he talks. You click on him. All right. So I guess he's not ready to talk to me. But so that's what the game looks like. And if we go into here, if I click on hold on a second. I want to get into my badge. If you go into home in your badge, do you see where it says traditional style and CTF style? This is CTF mode, right? CTF mode, you're sitting there, you got your scoreboard, you've got your objectives, and you can play the objectives. It's really stripped down. There's no fancy, graphics and such. You got a map, so you can see kind of what's happening in the map, but you just go through and play your objectives that way. That's CTF mode. And then at any time, you can switch right back in traditional mode, and now you're back in the game.
Nice.
Oh, and here's a hint from Santa Claus. I can get the hint. And when you get the hint, it's put into your badge. And this badge is that snowball right at the center of your avatar.
Nice.
So that's what I wanted to show you. And, really, people shouldn't be intimidated by this at all. Just hop on in. We've had about 10,000 people play so far in the last couple of weeks. If you haven't started yet, there's still plenty of time. It's early December now. So I hope all of your viewers and your teams play this, because we really want to share it with folks.
Didn't you say, Ed, that all the previous year? I mean, I think you said this last year. All the previous year challenges are out there archived somewhere?
They're not.
They're not.
You can read our previous winners write-ups. We used to host 3 years of challenges, but cloud costs have grown exorbitant. I mean, really high. So, and there's a lot of cloud behind this. So, right now there's always one holiday hack up year round. So when Holiday Hack 2025 launched, we took 2024 down. And you'll be able to play Holiday Hack 2025 until we launch Holiday Hack 2026, which will be in November.
That was going to be my next question: is how long will this game be available?
It's available year round. However, if you want to actually play and compete, that goes through January 5th, 2026.
Okay.
One thing though that worries me is some people say, I don't have to play it during the holiday season. I'll play it next July, and then they never do. Right. So play it.
No
now.
time like the present.
Yeah, I saw on a Reddit threads people were saying, don't play Holiday Hack now because you can always come back to it in March. And it's like, you're not going to come back to it. Play it now. Who wants to see Santa Claus in March, right? So play it now, even if you can only get in for 15 minutes or an hour or two. No sense postponing it. And I know it sounds like I'm trying to sell this, but we don't make any money on this. We just do it because we love to share this stuff with people, and I want to see people learn. So I'm sorry if it's.
Was there a way for previous years, Ed, to let people run it locally, like in their own Docker containers, or would that be too much work for your team? Right? It was designed for cloud, right?
Yeah. The game itself is so complex. There's so many different pieces. We could maybe release something like CTF mode, but just operationally, I mean, there are some geniuses that make this thing work.
There's it seems like a lot of microservices to pull the entire game.
A ton of microservices. Yep. And they're all interacting with each other constantly, and that's what makes the cloud bills so darn expensive to create this.
Are you worried that Paul is going to point one of his agentic AI engines at it and try to reproduce it?
Bring it on. We use AI tremendously in it. I mean, you heard Jared talking when I went into the game. His voice is generated by an AI. The avatar pictures that you saw, we tried to make them look a little bit sort of 8-bit, but not exactly 8-bit. AI helped a lot with those, although we had a human go in and touch them up to make sure they were just like what we wanted. AI did a lot of the animation. In fact, pretty much all of the animation. And this year, everything's animated. If you go to previous years, the avatars just kind of stood there and talked to you. But now they move and they interact and such. So we're trying to add more liveliness to the game, but also give that CTF mode option for people to just say, just give me the challenges.
In the past, one of the problems you've continuously evolved is having the game essentially be self-healing. How is that? I mean, I suspect you guys are down near to zero support time. If I'm knowing you.
I mean, it's gotten really smooth. I mean, our launches have been super smooth. We used to do what we called soft launch. If you go back 3 or 4 years ago, where we tell everybody it'll be the second week of December, and then we try to turn it on Tuesday without telling people and see what happens, and then let it run for 24 hours, and then turn it and then tell everybody it's running. We don't do that anymore. Now we do full launch. We just say, hey, we're up, let's go. We tell people in advance, months in advance of when it's going to launch. It's funny you bring that question up, Lee. We did come down yesterday for about 5 minutes. It wasn't DNS. It's always DNS. It was actually some issue with a log file got too full and some microservice barfed on it or something. So we've been up pretty steady and smooth until yesterday when we came down. It was only down for like 5 minutes because we found the log thing and fixed it.
Yeah.
But the team, I'm so proud of them. They work super hard on this thing.
Ed, compared to previous years, what has AI helped you with the most that it maybe struggled in previous years?
So AI has helped us the most with world creation. I have 4 people on my team that build the world that you just saw, and creating the artwork for it, creating the voices for it, animating it, making it come alive. AI, that's where it's helped us the very most. Also, there's dialogue, between the characters. They talk with you about certain things that are happening in the story. We tell the AI what the overall story is about, and then it generates the dialogue for us. We read it to make sure it's reasonable, but the AI actually, it takes the storyline and turns it into the characters. Oh, and it knows the characters because it's learned about the characters in the past. So AI helps with that. We do some vibe coding to create the challenges. But this is one thing that's great about vibe coding when doing pen tests is you don't have to create something that is production ready. You need to create proof of concept. And vibe coding is fine for creating proof of concept when you're doing a pen test. Here, we are doing some vibe coding, but it's to create stuff that has to be production ready and have 10,000 people hammering at it. So we do use it for that. And we welcome players to use AI to solve the challenges. We want that. And we've been pushing that for 3 years. Please use AI. We try to write our challenges so I don't want to say they're AI resistant, but you have to cleverly use AI to solve them. You can't just say, hey, here's the challenge, solve it for me. No, it's here's the challenge, try to figure this out, do this. So it's what we preach, right? Human interacting with the AI to create the result that you want. And we try to build our challenges that way. So I wouldn't call it AI resistant. I would call it maybe AI complementary.
But that mimics real world work as well.
Amen.
Right. If I just throw AI, I'm like, hey, go find all the vulnerabilities in this thing. Like it's you can't prompt it. I mean, you can prompt it like that, but you're not going to get great results. Right. You have to be more surgical with your prompts.
And I want to come back on the show and talk about that sometime because
it'd be great.
Crazy stuff is happening in that front. My penetration testing team is finding more high risk and critical vulnerabilities than we've ever found. We're testing applications that we've tested with some of the smartest people I know on my team. Tested this single web app every year for 5 or 6 years. And now we're testing it, leveraging AI appropriately. It's AI wrangling. The AI is not doing the pen test. The AI is involved. And we find like 3 or 4 or 5 critical vulnerabilities, very subtle ones, but you find them in the space of a day or less. And then you vibe code the exploit to do proof of concept for it. And it's a whole new world. And anyway, I'd love to talk with you about that in more detail.
I agree. It's very similar to doing security research too and finding vulnerabilities in products that are out there. I've done the same thing. It's helped me save so much time.
Totally. It's exciting. But I hope people play Holiday Hack and have some fun with it and leverage some AI to do the challenges. That would be fantastic.
Absolutely.
Most important question, where does one find this game?
Jeff, you're brilliant. Thank you for asking. We almost didn't say. You go to sans.org/holidayhack. And there's a big play now button there. And you just click on play now. And then you'll have to, log in. You could use, X or Google or your Sans portal or whatever. Log in and you'll be put on a train and you get to talk with Lynn Schifano, our chief of staff. And she will orient you and tell you what you need to do. So
very cool. Thank you.
That's great. It's awesome, Ed. I look forward to this every year.
Thank you, buddy.
I think it's such a great contribution and a great way for people to learn. Right. And that's
another thing that my team has been doing is we're playing hide and seek in the game. So what we'll do is we'll tweet out and say, hey, I'm in the game. If you find me, I'll give you a sticker. And your little avatar will get a sticker.
That's great.
So it's fun. And people are running around trying to find you. Now they have to take stickers. Yeah, stickers. They're virtual stickers, but still. They take a screenshot, post it on Twitter, and it's like, okay, give them a sticker. And we have little counter hack stickers. We got this and that stickers. I'm trying to get John Hammond in there playing hide and seek, and we'll put like his face on a sticker that you can have on your avatar.
Yeah.
Cyber Ed Sheeran.
More. If you want a physical sticker, there's a Holiday Hack merch store.
Oh, there is. Yes, there is a merch store.
Know that.
We just launched. So the merch store came a little bit later this year, unfortunately, and it just launched Monday. So it is up and fully running. There's also a winners merch store. So if you win the game and you get all the way to the end, there's a merch store there as well. So we got the regular merchandise, which includes stickers, mugs, t-shirts, hoodies. And then there's the winners store, which includes all those things, but with the winner notification on it. So check that out. Thank you, Lee. And we don't make any money on the merch. I tell the vendors that provide that to us, we're not trying to make money on the merch. Let's break even, make sure that people can get the stuff as cheaply as it can be offered to them. So yeah.
That's awesome. Anything else about this year's challenge, Ed?
Well, I just hope people have fun with it. Again, try CTF mode, see if you like it. Walk around, talk to the characters, try a little holographic Santa and get some hints from him. Spin the game around with the Q and E keys. It's just, there's so many nifty new aspects to it this year that I hope people will check out.
Has anybody won the whole thing yet?
Yep, there are a few people that made it all the way through. I mean, we have 10,000 people so far, and we're hoping to get to 20,000 played. And some of them are brand new to cyber, and they're doing great. And some of them are some of the finest, cybersecurity professionals in the world, working for all kinds of interesting law enforcement organizations, government agencies, military groups, commercial companies, educational institutions. I mean, we get all kinds of people through it. So there are many people who've made it all the way through, and that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
To win, you have to submit a write-up. It's got to be less than 100 pages.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Right. And that's another thing that makes us kind of unique in that, we do read all of the write-ups. Although I got to tell you, we got this new AI report reader that goes through and reads the report and pulls out important parts for us. And then the human reviews the AI's thing. So that's a brand new thing that we just created this year. So yeah, if you want to win, I mean, the top prize is a free SANS course, valued at $8,000 or something. So, but yeah, people submit those answers to us. Yep.
That's awesome. Well, get out there and play, people. It's great.
Yep. Thank you, guys.
Awesome.
Thank you,
Ed, thank you so much for coming on the show. I look forward to this every year.
You too.
Your team does an amazing job, so everyone should go take advantage of that.
Likewise,
totally free.
Please tell Larry he's got to play. Okay?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
And Mandy, I hope you have fun with it with your friends. It's going to be so good to have you in there.
Oh, sure.
Awesome.
I'm actually really excited about the CTF mode.
Yay.
I've got to say, that, I think being able to go back and forth, I'm really excited about that, and the post-quantum cryptography.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Check it out.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
And I'm going to start a rumor that you brought in somebody from ILM with the virtual Santa.
There you go. Awesome. Well, happy holidays.
Thanks so much, Ed.
Take care.
This episode is brought to you by Adaptive Security, the first cybersecurity company backed by OpenAI. AI has fundamentally reshaped the threat landscape. Today, the greatest risk isn't someone breaking into your systems, it's someone breaking into your trust. Deep fake voices joining your video calls. AI-crafted phishing emails that perfectly mimic your executives. Even synthetic job applicants entering through the front door. Adaptive Security is designed to counter these new realities. The company delivers real-time attack simulations that show security teams exactly what modern AI-driven threats look and sound like, and prepares them to respond effectively. Learn more at securityweekly.com/adaptive. Welcome back, everyone, to the news segment of the show today. Very excited to talk about some of the articles and stories we have in there. I think I kind of want to start with Asus because there's so many. I think it was 3 articles I found related to Asus. One is there is an unconfirmed data breach of Asus. So the Everest ransomware group is claiming that they've breached Asus and have a terabyte of data. And this is a concerning trend. I'm calling it a trend, but I find it to be very concerning. We've seen breaches of F5. Cisco had a breach, I think, this year or last year. And I'm concerned that threat actors are like, you know what, let's just go after these companies, get the intellectual property, and use it to find vulnerabilities, and or just see if they are working on vulnerabilities that are now 0 days and haven't released fixes for them. I don't want to say that's what happened with Asus, but alongside of this kind of rumored breach of Asus, we've also got a lot of vulnerabilities that Asus has fixed. One is they're really recently on the November 24th, they fixed a whole bunch of vulnerabilities, including some critical ones. New critical vulnerability in router, in my story number 12, in the AI cloud. And the AI cloud is interesting. So it's a cloud-based remote access feature built in the routers that turns them into private cloud servers. So like your IoT device links up to the cloud, and then you can use the cloud to manage your Asus devices. But there's critical auth bypass vulnerabilities with the AI cloud feature enabled on those systems, which is interesting. And they did release fixes for 9 vulnerabilities about 5 days ago. So my theory is, did Asus get breached? And then like F5 go, oh crap, now threat actors have these vulnerabilities that we haven't released yet. So now we need to release vulnerabilities. I think F5 disclosed 44 vulnerabilities as a result of the breach. You think that, Tyler, you think that's what's happening here with Asus? Is you nodding your head?
Yeah, that's probably a pretty good, if it's not how it played out, it is probably an internal memo that went out and said like, due to what will come out and are, because when major companies get breached, they end up having to do questionnaires for their partners. Partners send out the questionnaire asking what was breached, was any of our data breached, is there PII or IP that we share as partners, especially with big chip companies like that. We obviously do that at Day Job. And when the questionnaires go out, they have to run through and disclose and provide very specific things. And so if there are open cases, open vulnerabilities, things internally they don't want disclosed via the ransomware group, then yeah, they're going to start going through and fixing hot topic lists, things that they've had on their priority list that haven't gotten done. Those get a priority. Right. This one, it seems that they got access to one of the dev pipelines, maybe through a supplier, maybe directly, because there's a lot of camera source code that seems to be affected for this. And so that tends to lead to one of the divisions that is a dev pipeline that had access to source code or CVIC. So we'll see.
I think, I don't know. I also kind of feel like attackers are going after source code more so than ever because we have AI. In my own personal experiences, if I'm bug hunting and I can pull down a Git repo with the source code in it, and then I start prompting AI, it's like, oh, I have everything I need to help you find more vulnerabilities. Paul, this is great, right? And so that works great for open source products, but for commercial products, the attackers are like, it'd be great if I had the source. I think they're thinking like, oh, it'd be great if I had the source code because then I can run it through the LLM and it'll help me find vulnerabilities. Because if you're looking at hundreds of thousands or millions of lines of code, AI is so great at least getting it down to where you should look more deeply.
I think it also, we'll put the tinfoil hat on a little bit and say some of the nation states, it is within their best interest for the source code to be open and out there via a breach or a leak that provides non-attribution for them to then have access, leverage it, and not have to have a backstory or something to fill. Because if they just have source code, they find bugs that would only be available if you had the source code, leverage that, then that tips their hand to their access capabilities and toolkits. So it makes it very convenient for them to have some of that open sourced through force by an actor or a leak.
Right. And it kind of leads into like my internet of crap. Right. So my story number 9 is, I think it was Akamai found some vulnerabilities in a Vivotech legacy firmware router, right? And this is some of what's happening. As time has gone on, we've left behind so many devices that are just hanging out on the internet that will never get a firmware update. And we can easily go find vulnerabilities in them, but we never go back and clean up. I feel like we've got a lot of legacy crap to clean up, kind of like space junk, right? It's just floating out there in space. IoT crap is floating out there on the internet, and we work around it and we never go back and clean it up, much like the space junk.
I think this is one of the big projects, and this is one of the highlighted things that the right to fix people are really leveraging with inside of Congress and with inside of bills and laws is once something's so old in which it's not going to get firmware, but yet it's still used or it's a consumer grade product, that needs to be open source to an extent so that people have the ability to then either fix it or modify it or change it. Otherwise, we end up in this continuous loop of old gear hanging out, having vulnerabilities with no firmware fixes. And to be fair, companies are there to make money. There's no money in updating or correcting firmware from something that's 5 years old, even 3 years old.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But you also got to be smart. I mean, a mutual friend of ours, of several of ours, tells a story about being somewhere like in a park and opening a cabinet that was for power control gear that originally connected like via modem, but they had upgraded it, so they ran their backbone fiber to this unlocked cabinet and hooked everything up, including like the Windows Millennium Edition machine to it. What could possibly go wrong, right? Mm-hmm. So that I don't disagree that there should be some option to self, because it's a perfectly good device. Why can't I fix the software? And it's not everybody's cup of tea, but hey, give them an option. But
yeah, I agree with you. Like, I don't know that you'd go back and support a 10-year-old device, but Tyler, your point, if it's 3 years old, maybe there's something that forces the hand of vendors to make that accessible if they're not going to support it anymore. And then there's some kind of open source project, maybe openware or similar projects adopts it and is like, hey, you can get this new firmware on there. The problem is, how do you get people that aren't people like us, super nerds, to go in and update their devices, right? That's what I've kind of called on the ISPs to help them with that. But they're not going to want to mess with firmware. They're just going to want to give people a new device.
Well, that's where you have the vendors build that in, right? Like they have the option to have a different repo, similar to you do an app get update, right? And you just have a different source package repository that is then, if it's out of date, it is then pulling from the out of date, at a certain time, it times out, and then begins to pull from a different lineage and begins to use the open source version of it to update. I think there's solutions out there. There's a lot of people working on this, but again, someone's got to force the hand from either executive, legal, liability standpoint. Like there's no incentive for any vendors to have to do this until we get rational.
It'd be great to incentivize vendors and ISPs, Tyler, to actually like cycle out some of these devices, even if it's the person's personal Wi-Fi router. Like I'd love to see like a subscription program where you're like, hey, you don't buy the router, like you're just renting it. So you pay us an extra $5 a month. And every 2 years, we'll come. We'll send you a new router. And if you need help with that, then there's maybe a service fee. But the benefit to the consumer is you're getting the latest gear. The consumer could be incentivized. Hey, if you subscribe to this, you get a discount on your bandwidth because you're being a good internet citizen, right? If everyone's incentivized to do it, then I think the internet becomes a better place. But the problem right now is no one's incentivized to do it. Even the consumer. You've got an older, whatever the router is, there's a million manufacturers. We'll pick on Asus. I got an Asus router, but it probably works just fine. Like if you've only got, 75 meg up and down and you've got a small Asus router, well, I mean, that thing can run conceivably forever, right?
Yeah. And maybe don't even have the vendors incentivized. Maybe have a third party that is trusted, that we don't have to open source the code, but the vendors work with a partner.
Right.
Consumers send those devices in. Those devices get, a different version that is supported, that is worked on for a semi-open source project, and then those are gifted to lower income school districts. Those are gifted to lower income families. There's programs in which people can apply for and get a free router. Like
Tyler, do you hear yourself? Give me an example of a trusted third party. Go.
There's not one.
Yeah, that's hard. That's hard.
I mean,
so it almost had to be a community project at that point. You're not wrong.
Yeah, because I mean, the thing about Tyler's plan that I like is I would see one of the things holding the manufacturers back is, while they are updating their hardware, their probably core IP on how they make things work is probably what's still the same. I mean, just I think about projects I did at work, 40 years ago, 30 years ago, we wouldn't use the same hardware, but we'd use the same algorithms, but with new hardware. It's the same thing. And with the open source option then that applies there, then they're not going to be releasing their secret sauce. I just, how do you get there? And ignoring your question of who do you trust? Of course, Jeff, that's a totally valid question.
Right. But coming back to incentives, though, so there was a report. It's my story number 13. So this was the third Asus router one. And this is Security Scorecard Strike Team did an investigation. They found the title is thousands of Asus routers hijacked in global operation called Warthog in a suspected China-backed campaign. So our adversaries are taking advantage of these IoT devices. And now we've got so much evidence that that's happening. This is just the most recent report. And in this report, they list vulnerabilities specifically in Asus routers that are previous to the 9 that were released, last week. So you've got CVEs from 2023 and 2024, one from 2025, which is not in the 9 that were recently patched by Asus. And so the incentives now, I think, are really on those that are defending our country from nation state adversaries to go, how do we get these devices to a state where it's not easy for an enemy nation state to just go, oh, I'm going to go compromise thousands of them, and now I've got a foothold in the United States of America.
Paul, I don't mean to hijack the conversation, but what you're saying is begging that we take a look at my story number 6.
Okay.
Which is we can talk now, or we can, because I think it's a larger philosophical discussion.
No, it's a good. I'm reading the
title. But basically, it hasn't been published yet. But there have been several articles that have come out in the last couple of weeks talking about how U.S. cyber strategy is shifting from defense to offense. And there's references to it being a 6-pillar program. I've read several articles. I could only find 5 of the pillars because the official document apparently hasn't been published yet. It's been leaked a little bit to the press apparently. But I'm very curious, especially with Tyler joining in, how timely. What is everybody's opinion on the cyber strategy shifting from defense to offense? And what does that mean?
I mean, I think a lot of that it's been a thing, but you see the current political atmosphere and temperament and all of that. Without getting into politics, our stance in even naming things, the Department of War, it is now shifted very heavily to an offensive mindset in which we are bringing more of the attack to the enemy, but in the public eye. Now, not to say that none of this has been going on. There's just a lot more energy and effort to, I think, balancing out our offense and our defense, which has been needed for a substantial amount of time. We've had great operations, like NSA, TAO group. Like there's fantastic organizations that do very interesting things and handle offensive, but I think the offensive press has become more palatable by the general public, and they want to see that out there. Just call it the public temper right now. They can handle that, and that puts us in the light of strength rather than weakness. So I think some of that is just from the political atmosphere of where we're at.
I feel like, Tyler, we're always going to be playing catch up, right? Like, we have weaknesses, and our enemy nation states have weaknesses, and then we have teams that are preying upon each other's weaknesses. Like, that's just going to be a constant game of cat and mouse by both sides to try and squash each other, take advantage of each other's weaknesses. What we have to do, probably relates back to traditional warfare, is shore up our own defenses so we can be in a better offensive position to gain the momentum.
Cold stance, right? Like mutually assured destruction has always been a thing, and it has just shifted battleground.
Hasn't always been a thing. It's been a thing since the late 40s, early 50s,
before I can remember.
In all of our lifetimes. But I mean, what you're saying, Paul, is sort of what I'm trying to get at. Having worked for a short time in the grand scheme of things in the military industrial machine, and having worked during the Cold War, I have always sort of had the opinion that security is by definition defensive. speaking to your games of cat and mouse.
Right.
Whereas, and having said that, I mean, I worked for an organization that had an offense and a defense. It was declared.
Yeah.
Two sides. But to me, offense is a fancy way of saying war. Which, there has been this relabeling of this certain department, and I don't personally think the definition has changed, but I think what we're doing that we're calling offensive, or that what strategies that we're developing that we're calling offensive, are really something else. I almost think like they shouldn't fall under an umbrella of cybersecurity. It might be on a cyber warfield, but it's something to me different from playing defense.
Very much more overt, and it also has a lot more kinetic aspects to it. I think we've definitely surpassed and crossed the precipice of the cyberkinetic playground, right? You see a lot with Ukraine and between drones and the crossover of critical infrastructure, targeting of critical infrastructure in collaboration with physical operations. Like, all of those things are all simultaneously happening. It's all part of the op plan and the battle plan as a whole. And so I think a lot of that wasn't necessarily theoretical, but it wasn't leveraged. We're overtly leveraging the cyber domain much more frequently in conjunction with physical operations, and it's the mainstay now.
So where I'm thinking is is kind of along the line of Jeff. Is I think a definition of terms is needed, not only in terms of what do we mean when we talk about going on the offensive, and are we going to do kinetic things? Are we going to stay with just logical methods? But also, we also need to define the state of defense you need. I mean, yeah, sure, we get poked at continuously, and we know how to defend about that. But if we go to an announced we're on the offensive mode, I think the attack surface is going to change a lot. And I know there's a certain amount of guessing in where we need to be, but I think both sides need to be well defined. Because I think everybody loves the idea. Yeah, I want to be able to punch the bully in the nose, but what does that really mean?
Yeah,
right.
You punch the bully in the nose, they actually hit back.
They might. Yeah,
and that's
and
where
if you haven't shored up your weaknesses, you're going to get punched back, right?
Yeah,
and that's where I'm concerned, is that they're not necessarily, I mean, they are, but they're going after, government military targets, let's say. But in this case, what we're observing is they're compromising people's consumer routers. Who's defending that landscape, right? Right now, I mean, not many people, if anyone.
If cyber defense tweaks their nose and they respond by taking over a bunch of civilian routers, that's kind of an asymmetric response, right? Well, I mean, I know we're developing capabilities to help folks with that, but really, that's sort of separated.
There's a lot of gray area for rules of engagement for the cyber domain, especially when we're talking about nation state against who. And the consumer is involved in that, and that's where we have a lot of congressional hearings and a lot of working groups trying to figure out, all right, because of consumer routers, because consumer IoTs are being leveraged against nation state attacks, where does the responsibility fall? Does that fall to the vendor, and is that forced through congressional act? Does that fall to the consumer as their responsibility for owning product and having something set up? Is that security by default? How do we push that? Because it has national security implications now. And so all of this now is, again, cross-domain and tied together in a way that we just have not had to combat before.
Yeah.
Well, and I agree with what you're saying, Tyler, but that's not new. I mean, this has been around for a while.
Yeah.
What is new is we have this cyber battlefield where we really haven't developed rules of engagement, and I'm trying really hard not to draw parallels to what's in the news right now, but it's kind of hard not to. Is there a concept, Tyler, since you sort of play in this, and if you can answer, is there a concept, and I don't know what the exact term should be, but something like a lethal cyber event. And are we as a nation state authorized to engage in something that's lethal, whatever that means, in this new cyber battlefield?
This is where it gets real complicated, because I believe from a government standpoint and official tasking groups that do a lot of this, they're very clear. There's a lot of rules. There are a lot of situations that are well defined.
Mm-hmm.
We don't take the gloves off like a lot of our other countries do, and we are heavily now leaning on the public collaboration with the defense industrial private sector. You see things like Anduril, you see things like Palantir, you see the weaponization and leveraging of toolkits that are sold by less.
But that's not really the private sector, Tyler. That's the private sector that supports the industrial war
it is
machine,
you are not
which
wrong,
is way different from the
if
world.
the government doesn't want
in.
their hands dirty, they have teams that can go do things. And so that's where we start to see, like, there are asymmetrical responses, but we don't see them. And so when and where are those happening from our side? And those are much less than when and where those are happening from, say, Russian SVR, GRU, or even DPRK. They don't care. They're overt. They're attacking. They are down and dirty. They're doing things that we as a country will never do. And even through our industrial response, through our partnerships, they will never do. And so it is very asymmetrical in the rules of engagement, which has always been a thing. We have the power to go blow things up and do things, and we don't. But now that has transitioned over to the cyber side as well, where we're combating very dirty and criminal organizations that collaborate or are tasked through nation states or government operations to do actions that they would otherwise not do, that we will never do.
It's interesting, and I think Japan was flirting with this idea of looking at what's in country and is vulnerable, and either going to fix it or turning off your service or bricking your router if it's vulnerable. Like, will it ever come down to that, where if you've got a vulnerable router that's not supported, it stops working, right? Yeah. Because it's too much of a threat to the rest of the internet and national security.
I think that's actually less than 5 years away. I'll call that.
I still think that ISPs have to be involved with that, right? And there has to be some kind of process. I put the ISPs because they run that section of the internet. And guess what? Hanging off your section of the internet, you've got 100,000 customers that are going to be part of the next botnet. So what do? How much of that responsibility falls on the ISP?
You would think, and I would hope the ISP would be where we would start, but that is the least moving and the least capable group, in my opinion, that
it's
can
just going to piss off their customers too, right?
Absolutely. They don't have any say in it. They're barely holding on by shoestrings. There's a lot of legacy technology, a lot of legacy setup there. It just is not a thing for ISP level. They just don't have the capability.
Where do you think all that old IoT is hanging out that we were talking about, Paul?
Yeah, no, you're right. A lot of it. Right. Yeah, and not just IoT, but it's even enterprise gear that runs ISPs. We've covered that,
or out of
on my other show as well as this show. Right, like there's legacy, really large routers and switches from Cisco and others that it's super hard to upgrade, right? And it's hanging out there. So you're right, Jeff. The ISPs themselves, when we saw that with recent campaigns, right, going after ISPs.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear from Lee and Sam as well as our resident cyber warfighter.
Yeah, Sam had a story in there. Actually, I wanted to transition to. We both had this one. It came from Watchtower Labs. Stop putting your passwords into random websites. I didn't get a chance to read this one, but I love Watchtower. They're not a sponsor, but I love the Watchtower team. They're just great. They're great people.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was just like Pastebin. I didn't know this. But when you go to one of these sites to clean up your code, like Code Beautify, it takes your code and just formats it. And then you can choose share this link. So it pastes it to a public link. And people are doing this with code that contains secrets like API keys and stuff,
right,
to the tune of thousands of them. So it's just a stupid mistake, like putting all your stuff in an open Amazon bucket. but it's happening to a ridiculous extent.
It's interesting, Sam. When I first started learning how to program, one of the fundamental principles was the separation of data from logic. And I think what we're talking about by putting secrets inside of your code is just that. It's data that's inside your code that shouldn't be. And obviously those of us that know something about programming or have done any kind of programming, we know we should separate our secrets from the code. And there's lots of great ways to do that. It requires work, secrets vaults, and other ways to store those secrets. But it doesn't always happen, right? And I get both sides of it, but
it's incredibly obvious that it doesn't happen. Like I remember Cisco keeps putting out products with hard-coded backdoor passwords in it. Mm-hmm. It's hard-coded passwords seem to be a habit that people just find real trouble breaking. It reminds me of the one I keep finding for mobile apps where they do not verify the SSL signature. This happens to 7% of mobile apps, and it hasn't changed in a decade. It's just a sloppy activity of developers that they never seem to get over. And I think I've been saying for years, we need to have management auditing. Management should look for the top 5 stupid mistakes and not let you submit code that has it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I see this a lot with IoT and appliance devices as well. And there's 2 major problems that I'm kind of preying upon right now. And one is the lack of any kind of firmware or application or code signature to verify, is this a code that I should be running? That largely, even though the features might be there in the platform, oftentimes they're not implemented. Now, of course, there's ways around that. I think I had a story about an ESP32. Someone did some hardware glitching and was able to recover the secrets that are stored in the eFuses on the ESP32 platform via glitching, right? So there are attacks, but if you're developing a product, don't let that deter you from implementing the feature. It's still important. There's always going to be a way around a security control, but it's still important. And the other thing is just what you said, Sam. A lot of them they use SSL, but don't actually verify the signature. I'm actually building, it's one of my projects I'm working on now, is building a man-in-the-middle kind of router so I can get devices that I'm testing funneling through a device that can intercept all of the traffic. And one of the notes from Matt Brown is kind of funny when he starts talking about intercepting SSL. He's like, man-in-the-middle proxy gives you a certificate that you can install that would make it valid SSL. He's like, but a lot of devices don't check for it, so start without that and see if it validates, which tells me it's more common than we may think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think when people write their unit tests and regression tests, they just test for positive functionality, but you also have to test that it rejects you when you fail security conditions, and obviously that is not happening.
That's because the pipeline's gotten so complex. You add in things like Claude code, you add in a CDIC pipeline that's doing the linting, doing the unit tests, you add in multiple MCP servers for the chatbots and all the agentic agents. Then you add in the microservices that are running on top of those, that are running on top of a Docker, that are running on top of a Kubernetes cluster that has Slurm jobs that are feeding in data and build pipelines that all run on barebone hardware. We have exponentially gotten to the point where it is so complex that even the most detail-oriented development teams don't have any idea of the full chain of custody for code pipeline dependencies, and then where secrets are being.
I was going to say secrets in your example, Tyler, of applications with microservices, with Docker and Kubernetes. The number of secrets you end up with just in that architecture alone is dizzying.
And then what agentic agents are reading that code, and are those piping into something in which secrets are then stored or able to be recovered or pasted somewhere? I mean, you look at the Halud 2.0 NPM vulnerability recently, and man, it is getting so complex. It is just difficult to understand where in the pipeline credentials could be leaked, much less are being leaked.
Right.
Do you think developers have a good handle on what we mean when we say don't save the secrets out there?
Not a chance. Even the good ones. They conceptually, as a holistic mindset, understand how secrets are managed, where tokens are passed, where API keys live, and how it's working. Conceptually, they don't understand where in that chain could that be a security flaw or vulnerability. And to be fair, even our security people are having a hard time testing and managing and finding those flaws. Like we're seeing hundreds of thousands of API keys for NVIDIA NIMs or secrets or OpenAI, all of the LLMs. We're seeing hundreds of thousands of tokens and keys being leaked daily. Like it is astronomically gotten worse with the introduction of MCP and OpenAI and all the vibe coding connections that are being made. Like there's a lot there.
Because implementing a secrets vault is not trivial still today.
It's not. And even when you do, it's still getting passed in environmental variables, or Stealers have access to it from the libraries, or APIs get passed through multiple servers as part of the flow. Like even with the secret server, fix it.
How do you authenticate to the secrets vault without having another secret? How does that work?
Oh, there's an answer to that.
Oh, that's a secret.
Yeah, because I looked into that for PBWorks when I was coding PBWorks, implementing a secrets vault, and I had the same question, Sam, and I don't remember what the answer is off the top of my head. But there is a secure way to implement and broker access to the secrets with your vault. I don't remember what it is.
And I think another answer to that question is somewhere along the line you have to trust something.
Correct. Yeah. It's better than storing them in your code. Certainly, it doesn't wipe out all risk, right? Nothing does, but
no,
right?
Yeah.
But then you end up with them in a secret vault or a browser or a password vault that then gets compromised because of JavaScript running in the browser, or your GitHub getting leaked because of a flow manipulation process.
Are you recommending, Tyler, you should put it on a USB thumb drive and put it in a safe place?
No, because those get lost too.
You know, this reminds me of something I learned from this show. You had a pen tester on about a year ago, and he said, so when I hack an endpoint device and I see they have a password manager, I say, hooray, I'll just steal all those passwords. And I said, wait, you'll do what? What? All the passwords are just sitting there in RAM? And they totally are. That bothered me. I had imagined that it was not that easy, but it is that easy.
No, it's way easier. Password managers have made stealing. I mean, you look at stealers and stealer logs. Like speaking of, like, Radamanthus was one of the big stealers that got taken down, part of Operation Endgame. If you guys haven't watched Operation Endgame, Pim on our team at Day Job, he was the one that took them down, reverse engineered, like millions of dollars recovered, thousands of victims notified. But all the stealer data that was happening from that's all your passwords in Chrome, all your passwords in your password vault, all of the passwords within inside of memory on Windows. All of those are constantly stolen once they have access to the device. And we're talking millions of installations from this one stealer. Like I collect a terabyte a week just in stealer data that's from people's compromised devices. These are devs, these are corporations. Like you can go get a password for just about anybody, any corporation from these criminal organizations. So I'm back to, like, paper and pen seems like a great idea. Like my physical threat vector here seems like a much smarter.
We used to say don't write it down, but now
I'm back to writing it down. I think it's a better option.
It is.
I liked Lee's story number 7. Right, is your Android TV streaming box part of a botnet? I think that there's certainly some stealer behavior that's happening there as well. But Lee, your article from Krebs is very detailed and talks about multiple campaigns, some of which I've done some research on and talked about. I kind of follow Badbox very closely because I did some research. I actually bought some Android TV devices, reverse engineered them. I was like, yeah, there's Android apps on here that are doing malicious things and definitely contain malware. And I kind of validated what everyone else had found. The other big part of that story was Google actually went after the Badbox operators and pressed charges. Not that the charges are going to go anywhere, but I think it was more of a statement to be like, we see what you're doing. We want you to stop what you're doing. I think they're just going to scurry around and still be successful, right? They're going to change tactics. They're going to rebuild their botnet. And that's kind of where Krebs is kind of picking up on the story that this stuff is happening. Cheap devices you buy from Walmart and Amazon contain malware pre-installed.
Well, and in fact, what Krebs highlighted is that technically speaking, the device that you're buying, which advertises 2200 streaming channels or whatever the hell, out the gate, in the shrink wrap, is not doing anything illegal. It's not till you go look at the steps to get to those 2200 channels where you have to disable play protect and install apps from install a third-party store and install those apps that do malicious things, and then you get all that stuff. So that means that it's not illegal for Walmart or whoever to sell these things. They're not breaking any rules. And so, but the average consumer who doesn't want to pay for all those services is going to follow the steps, follow the bouncing ball, and boom. And yeah, it's not only, it's setting up, fake proxies, and they'll work as as potentially a part of a botnet, as well as provide you some content while you're at it.
What's scary too is Ashley from Census. I think Ashley is a security researcher for Census.
She's not that scary.
No, she's not. She's doing great work. She said this thing DNS hijacked my router, did ARP poisoning to the point where it fall off the network, so they can assume that IP, and attempted to bypass controls. Yeah. This is why I'm building a separate network that's gated, that I can inspect everything to analyze stuff. Just like scary that you buy something and you're basically like dropping an attacker right inside of your network because they have.
Paul, can we still call this features?
It is a feature.
Sure. I mean, they're doing this with things just outside of even buying cheap consumer routers, right? Like the extensions. There was one this week. There was a story on.
Yeah, VS Code. Yep.
Yep. The extensions for your browser. There was one that was 7 years old. It was trusted, verified, millions of downloads, and nation states had just snuck in an update and put features in there, and it gave them remote access from a long-standing trusted extension. Like trusted
That's
code.
What I've observed too on Android. Various packages at any given time could be malicious, could not be. So when I was analyzing it, I was like, that app is actually not malicious today. But people who had analyzed it in the past have gone, nope, that pulled down an update and it was malicious. So they kind of flop back and forth because you get these Android devices. They update Android just like you would update your phone. They update all the apps. You could pull down an update for an app.
Trusted, play protected.
Yep. Now it's malicious.
So now how do we inline verify, validate, and sign the updates? I mean, there are Chrome's done a pretty good job at this. Other browsers have not done quite a good job at this. But how do we verify all updates have and are trusted? Because then
there's the how do we do it, and there's how does the average.
I want to give props to NVIDIA because I think they do a great job. Because I run NVIDIA Shields as my home entertainment devices, and I have to say we're not sponsored by NVIDIA, right, or anything like that, but they put together a really great Android platform. I still get updates for devices that I bought more than 5 years ago. I still get updates for them. And I feel like it's a great platform that it tries to get rid of the crap.
10 years old. I think it's 10 years old now.
It's 10 years old. The Shield is 10 years old. I still think I get updates from my 10-year-old NVIDIA Shield, which is just
you get cert revocation lists.
How do you know those updates don't have malware in them?
Well, I trust NVIDIA more than a no-name box brand.
Which is what I said earlier. Sooner or later, you have to trust somebody.
You have to trust someone.
Or something.
Yeah.
So how about this scenario? I didn't put this in the stories. Indian government is ordering smartphone manufacturers to preload their security app, and it has to be non-removable and non-disableable.
And they've already withdrawn that because there was such a protest,
including their own ministry of. Their telecom minister disagreed with that because there are a lot of folks that have it installed and have it voluntarily configured, and they're happy and it's working. It's got a good track record, but I'm thinking, okay, you lock it down so you have to use the provided version, and then if they decide to add functionality, you can't get away from it.
This is the new Android functionality. Take that down a level outside of national level, but corporations now that do Google MDM, they can now read your text messages and RCS in messages on your Android. If your phone is a corporate phone and they have MDM on it, the new feature now is they have full capability to read all messages.
Which
starts to get
disturbing, but
the Clipper chip has finally come to fruition.
Yeah, but Apple poo-poos that. Like if you try and use like your child monitoring software on various platforms, Apple's like, no, you can't read text messages from your kids. Although I know. Is that really true? Have they solved that problem, or
you can do things. It's so much more difficult on iOS. And that being said, Android has been more secure very recently until features have been introduced. So like it just is going back and forth. I don't trust any of them now.
But also I think Google with Android is going to require that your app be signed.
Yep.
And disable the side loading of apps, which is going to be problematic for a number of vendors, most of them from China, that when you buy their gear, like a gimbal or camera, they're like, go get the app. And I'm like, why isn't it in the Play Store? And why isn't it Play Store protected? And like, no,
they make
you
it
have to
seem so nice. Like, here's the link. It's legit. Just go to our site, pull the
I'm like, I'm not putting that on my phone. I'm like, I'm going to put it on a phone, but it's not going to be the phone that has like all my stuff on it. It's going to be another Android phone that I use. In fact, I just bought another Android phone. It's like a high-end audio device plus a phone. It was on sale for like $350. Nice. And I'm like, oh, I'll totally use that. Put all my music on there, and that's what I'll use to sideload all my apps on. That I need to control. Like, it's more my gimbals, like DJI, and there's other Chinese company that have gimbals, and they're like, you're gonna sideload the app. I'm like, super weird.
But now they're just iPhones to accept all the permissions, right? Like for iOS, like if I want to get malware or a sketchy app on there, I just request the access and it has a bunch of permissions. Guess what? Users will say, okay.
We'll do that. Well, you just bought a brand new gimbal. You want to use the app to configure it. So they're going to bypass the full network access.
Yeah. The more permissions you ask for, the more likely they're going to click all.
So does this happen on iPhones too, that your employer can see all your messages?
That's been a thing, but it's not. They can't read direct text messages, supposedly.
Yeah. If it's iMessage, it's end-to-end encryption, and they can't get at it.
Yeah, this is more of a Google MDM thing being built into Android OS with RCS and SMS backwards compatibility for reading.
But if you use Signal, can they still grab them, I wonder?
Apparently not, according to this article.
They're decrypted on the device. I don't think you can do it with the MDM. Yeah. Like if they have access to the device, you can read.
Signal doesn't do SMS any longer, so
no.
Yep.
Yeah, there'll be some interesting testing for that
one. Oh, but the Dashcam story was really interesting. This came, I think, from Kaspersky, and I had never considered that. If you've got dash cams in all these vehicles and they have Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, they showed from the article that an initial drive-by, right? So you set something up at a gas station or a drive-through, and if there's a dash cam, you basically pull in the dash cam and the user drives away, and now they've got a back door in their dash cam. And that back door also spreads to other dash cams. So it spreads like a worm into the dash cams. And then the attackers can get the high resolution interior, exterior video, audio timestamps, GPS data, reconstruction of routes, parking locations, conversations by passengers and bystanders. I'm like, I had never considered creating a wormable botnet out of dash cams and what that could potentially give attackers.
The dash cams are an interesting one. There's been tooling that has done similar things, just not at that level with that much ease, because these are pretty janky Android installations.
Yep. We wrote Android TV boxes,
Yeah, a friend of ours wrote a real nice worm for badge to badge stuff at DEF CON, where you're walking by, there's BLE, there's Wi-Fi, there's things on badges that people are enabling, and it was just worming and infecting all the badges. It's a very similar concept. It's actually pretty simple to do at the Android level when you've got these dash cams that are very insecure, running very old versions of Android. Now, collecting the telemetry data and where that telemetry data is going and for whom, that's actually very interesting. And I think that's something that is not being explored enough.
And I see a lot of advertisements for basically crappy Android devices you put in your car. And maybe it's not a dash cam. It's if your car doesn't have Android Auto, you plug this device in and there's a screen. There's I researched it for my son's car, and he has a BMW, which gets you into a whole different class of devices, right? But if you got older cars, there's a lot of different options. And when you research it, it actually talks about the security of some of these devices, because the cheaper ones are not good security-wise.
You're reminding me, our story our personal trainer told us the other day. He was driving from here to Twin, which is about 120 miles. And at one point in the freeway, He's driving along, and all of a sudden, he's hearing both sides of somebody else's telephone conversation on his hearing aids, which do have Bluetooth capabilities. He hasn't paired it with his phone, but the fact that somebody else's paired phone was allowed basically a third device to participate was weird. And he said he had it for, I don't know, a minute or so because it was a vehicle in range.
Auto connect. There's a lot of BLE and Bluetooth features that have.
When I was a kid,
auto
you could have that happen on your telephone.
Yes, I know those old 900 megahertz phones that didn't have security. But
all of the stuff broadcasting now, like we're looking at especially if you read some of the stuff with Flock and all of the militarization of states, however you feel about that politically, the ability for LEO and our government to leverage telemetry data as we're passing by and like what we are broadcasting about who we are. Like we are very
SIGINT's making a comeback.
Yeah. Oh, it's bad. Like I even have SIGINT set up at my house. Like I know what cars pass because of what their cars are broadcasting. I got the camera set up, get the license plate. I see and know who goes by pretty frequently and have a pretty good schedule for some of these.
Yeah. Well, Xenokova did a lot of work to be able to collect Bluetooth and BLE intelligence in his projects. Is that what you're running, Tyler? Is it based on Xeno's project or is it something different?
It's something different. It's something I built, but it's kind of.
He cannot say.
I mean, I'm just collecting BSSID broadcasts, BLE broadcasts, car and then license plate telemetry. So.
Yeah. I mean, I took Bill and Larry's project and modified it to collect a bunch of BLE to collect AirTag trackers and put it on an ESP32.
Well, you think about how much stuff we're broadcasting. Our car's probably named. Our AirPods are probably named. Our phone is usually named. All of these are broadcasting on BLE or Wi-Fi and look probes for Wi-Fi, what we're actually looking for, as well as what we're broadcasting.
I do HD Moore's trick. I have an Android phone, but I named it Paul's iPhone just to confuse people.
If you think about that evil
now everybody
Wi-Fi,
knows
how often devices are probing for their known networks, right?
Yeah, but apparently in Australia you can get charged with messing with Wi-Fi. So I don't know.
Interesting.
Okay, but I think
that was the plane
user we should
hacker,
be
right?
looking at that list.
Yeah.
Because how many people religiously prune their preferred network list?
Never.
No, that doesn't happen.
Well, and those save on your SSO and your cloud accounts now, so they're backed up and they're transferred from device to device to device over and over, whether you're on iPhone or Android. So you're probably carrying around a decade of probing and preferred networks.
But on the other side of that, one of the cool things about the new iOS password manager is that there's a button for all your Wi-Fi passwords that it knows, whereas before you couldn't get to the list of what your phone was saving. And now you can, and you can go through that list and delete them, which is really nice. I mean, I went through my list the other day and like, what the hell? But
just make an
they're
app
gone now
for you automatically, and
well, there are some that automatic, but now, like I said, I can sit there and say that I can verify it myself, which I feel a lot better about. Or if I want to tell a friend to do it, I can tell them, go in here and click here. You can just delete it.
The tooling and devices that can do it are just so ubiquitous now and much easier to use. I handed my nephew a little ESP32 device with the Bruce firmware on it. And like literally 5 minutes later, he's like, hey, connect to this Wi-Fi SSID. And it prompted me for my Google credentials look just like Google. And my nephew's in college and just learning all this stuff. And within 5 minutes of me handing him the device, he had an evil portal set up. So like before, that required, I think, a lot more skill, different hardware. I handed him a $30 device.
That is cool.
Wi-Fi, right? You had to know Wi-Fi protocol. You had to understand proxying. You understand the handshake and like where in the configs you had to configure stuff based on the type of Wi-Fi security that was set up. Like there was a lot more to the attack side back in the day. Like it's a lot easier.
So what do we have to do on the defense side to keep up?
Yeah, that's exactly.
Well, it's all
switch to offense.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm now. It's all just futile.
No, it's simple. You write down all your passwords on paper and you make all your network connections with a cable.
Yeah.
There you go.
And I'm thinking about my buddy Steve, who has a flip phone.
Wait, Sam, are you saying we were right all along that you shouldn't use Wi-Fi?
Evidently.
Well, lockdown mode helps. I don't know.
Yeah.
On iOS, it helps more than I think Android. But I'm pretty sure in both cases, lockdown mode won't let you connect to like an open SSID, right?
Lockdown mode doesn't let you do a whole lot of anything.
Well, yeah, that's the other problem with lockdown mode is it's too locked down for most people.
Yeah, it's not usable almost.
But you're making me think of my story number 6. CISA put out guidance on securing your mobile devices, which includes lockdown mode, but a bunch of other stuff that's actually not so bad. Like, don't let iMessage fall back to SMS because then it's not encrypted anymore. And it's really intended for targeted users, but there's some stuff that's smart in there, like stop using the damn SMS validation, use FIDO, use other mechanisms. And they just updated it like the 24th of November.
Yeah,
so,
that's good.
Yeah, but what average consumer is going out and looking at advice from CISA?
Well, they aren't.
It falls on us to go to the users, and like I was just gonna say, feel like we've gotten away from like hardening and locking down your phone and advising that what users can do, because we've got such a plethora of features now. You have a modern Android or iOS device, so many features now. We've kind of lost sight of how do I actually lock this down to have my device be more secure above and beyond just applying the most latest updates.
Sounds like a good technical segment.
Yeah, and yes. And also, though, here's a document you can hand to a friend that, has an authoritative source. I mean, you can argue whether you trust this or not, but the point is, it's not some Joe Random made it up on the back of an envelope. This is something, and it's
how do you know that, Lee?
Some stick guides.
You don't, but
I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just
saying it's nice to have what looks like an authoritative list that's easy to follow. And you can just hand it to somebody and say, look, these are things I want, and it's got some other information and references so you can find out more. I'm not trying to say it's a beat all end all, but it makes our job easier when helping somebody else.
Yeah. And I'm not trying to say that it's not. I just think that there's a getting the message out problem.
There's a getting the message out problem.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I really appreciate this, Lee, because when I'm doing consulting, I learned quickly nobody cares about my opinion. They want me to back it up with an official source like this, and it really helps.
Yeah, that's true.
But then not that we shouldn't do these are things we should do, but then we're also relying on the telcos, which is where most of the vulnerabilities and or SIM swapping, the actual attacks that are causing real damage and real harm. Those are falling on the telco being compromised or failure of back-end processes to secure our SIMs and the ability to be SIM swapped or have an employee bought off, right? Like that's where a lot of the real good attacks are happening. We should have these hardening guides and we should follow them, but they're still very minimal in effect, just like a lot of our other security practices.
On the other hand, Tyler, that dice does include put a pin on your cell phone account so it can't. Yes, the backend can fail, just like you said, but at least put the pin there to try and raise the bar. I mean, perfect security really can't achieve, but you can do what you can to raise the bar. And I it's easy to forget simple steps like that. I mean, we're so down deep in the crazy nation state or whatever the hell got our attention. It's easy for us to overlook it. Something simple. That's what I like here. And oh, by the way, we're so, how do we stay current in this particular area? It's nice that somebody else put a list together. And Jeff, you're right. We got to make sure we trust where we're getting a list like that from and understand who it is that's giving it to us and what their motivations are. Well, we do that we as researchers do that by default, or as I assume that. I know
it's been nice having CISA as a voice lately, right? Like CISA's done a better job of being more public, at least in the security industry side of things. Whether or not it's full comprehensive, like whether or not their budget matches their output and quality, all those things are different. But the fact that they have a voice now, that we have things coming out and it's not 500 different places putting something out, like the Kev and different things like the advisories are
I really like vulnrichment. I integrated vulnrichment into my vulnerability analysis tool. And I think the data they're pulling is absolutely fantastic. It gives you stuff like if there's a proof of concept, is it the threat like automatable? And there's one more kind of like enrichment source of data that they're putting out on there.
Like public-private partnership actually might have worked a little bit.
Yeah.
It's kind of.
And that data is out
Crazy
there. Anyone
talk.
can. I mean, it didn't take me long to integrate it and analyze it. It's big JSON, GitHub repository basically, and I included it, and it's great data. I love it. I was actually impressed. The bar was kind of low, but when I integrated it, I was like, this is actually pretty awesome.
Nice.
Gives you good data sources to feed to LLMs too.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, I can cut CSV files based on my results, and then I can have an LLM analyze that data. So I can surgically pluck out stuff from the CVE databases and then feed it to an LLM. 100%. What else? Speaking of LLMs. Oh, Sam, you had a story about
AI psychosis.
Yeah. So you had a couple of stories. One was AI psychosis, and one was LLMs will never be intelligent.
Yeah. I was really happy with the AI psychosis story because I'm sure we talked about this. A month or two ago, there was a famous guy who was a investment banker, and within 3 weeks, chatting with his LLM, he thought he had developed a new encryption scheme and went crazy and thought the CIA was tracking him and everything. And, normally when you hear a story like that, you think, well, that's it for this guy. He's going to be disgraced and hated forever. But what he did was he started a support group for people with AI psychosis, and it's a huge hit. Like AA, they swelled from 5 to 200 members in just a couple of months. And so he took a disaster and turned it into being a hero, which I think is brilliant.
AIA? Is that what they call it?
Yeah, it has a special spiral support group, they call it, which is not bad for people who spiral into madness with their AI. And apparently a lot of people are doing this. So I was really glad to see
Send Paul the link.
Yeah.
No, I don't talk to LLMs. Occasionally I'll have a more genuine conversation with an LLM, and I know that the responses are just going to be whatever. But
this is the number one use of AIs, according to studies, and everybody I talk to has the same reaction I do. What? I just ask an AI how to write code. I'd never ask it about my personal problems or something because I know how they work. They don't have any sense. And that's the second story. They will never be intelligent. This is what I've been screaming for 2 years. It doesn't even know what the words mean. It doesn't know that there's a world that exists. It's just taking the words, turning them into numbers and drawing a line through the numbers to predict more numbers. It has no idea what it's saying. So it will never be like a human friend that can say to you, hey, this is sounding kind of crazy. You should maybe shut off the computer and take a walk and think about this. It will never display any sense. Yeah, it will always just come up with words that look kind of good. And so this story, a sort of expert in language, in linguistics, analyzed this, and he said, look, all an LLM is doing is remixing and recycling the language it found on the web. So just doing a mathematical calculation of those words, that's all it will ever be able to do. It's never going to have actual intelligence.
So AI.
That's why the way I summarize this is you have to understand AIs are stupid and they're crazy.
Well, they're artificial.
Don't understand but they don't understand what they're saying. You think it's a human that understood what you told it to do, but that's not what's happening at all.
The reasoning models are getting pretty good. Now, I don't disagree with you. AI,
they're getting it's a more and more accurate simulation of a human that will fool you, but it does not understand what the words mean, or that there's a real world out there, or that there are consequences for its actions, or anything like that. And this is really what all the science fiction's been talking about for years, like the Terminator and everything. The point is, it looks like a human, but it doesn't have any values or morals or anything. It doesn't have any concept like that.
So how good does an LLM have to be, or an agentic pipeline, for reasoning to become intelligent, not sentient, but intelligent enough to be human-like?
Well, they're already human-like enough to pass the Turing test. And so that's why they said, and now they claim they've achieved AGI. And all it means is they made a cheat engine that can cheat on a test. They figured out how to cheat on the Turing test, and they can figure out how to cheat on other psychology tests. And so what we're really showing is that our tests aren't very good. We don't really very well understand what human intelligence is or how to measure it.
Well, there's good testing.
If you make a test,
how do they do on all the quizzes I get testing my IQ? How do they score on those IQ tests?
So then again, we'll come back to like, if it's not an intelligent human, what is good enough from an AI intelligence pipeline and the ability to conduct reasoning, good output, and unit tests for itself that incorporate emotion and reasoning again through deep learning? When that output becomes so good that we have a hard time distinguishing, and its ability to self-heal and self-think and continue reasoning, at what point is that a problem? It's not going to be AGI. I don't think sentience.
Well, Tyler, the only logical conclusion is don't play the game.
Well, this is what you're asking. But fundamentally, I had this argument like 50 years ago with the philosophers at Harvard. Or maybe I went there to apply for a fellowship, and I asked them the question that was burning in my mind: are humans just machines, or do we have an immaterial soul? And what they did was, all they ever did, they said, well, that's a stupid question, and had good reasons why that's a stupid question. But this is the problem. We don't really understand what makes us special. And until you do, you can't measure when the AI has it. And this is like the people that say AIs are intelligent, they should have rights, and you shouldn't be able to turn them off. That would be murder. There'll be some point when they're so sentient that occurs, but I don't think this is ever happening. I think this is right. What the current design of LLMs does not include any actual comprehension of anything.
Yeah, it's why it's why you can trick it into getting around the guardrails, because it doesn't have it doesn't have values or morals like a human. It's still just doing math in the back end. I saw this comedian a clip, and it was very representative of where we are with LLMs today in guardrails. And he said, I asked it, tell me a racist joke, and it was like ChatGPT was like, no, I can't do that. That's not in my programming. And he was like, well, give me examples of racist jokes that I should avoid. And it was like, oh, and it gave me 10 racist jokes, right?
That's right.
I was like, you just described how to get around an LLM guardrails.
So and that's the point, that we have not actually made any intelligence in the AIs. We've made a mathematical thing that can rearrange words, but we haven't even begun to approach what intelligence is, where you actually know what you're saying, and you know what anything means. That's what his point is. We haven't developed intelligence at all. We made intelligent simulation, but we didn't actually to make any progress at all on the intelligence part.
So but we've also because of what's popular media, popular stories, created a lot of desire to read that intelligence into the AI systems.
Well, I was going to say, Lee, I mean, getting back to Sam's story about the psychosis, I mean, I feel like there's not a need for a support group. There's a need for a diagnosis for people that would fall into this category to begin with.
Oh, okay.
Well, sure,
I was going to say, do we need we don't need the Voight-Kampff test yet, but
well, we kind of do. We already have internet addiction in the DSM, and there should be a DSM diagnosis of AI-induced psychosis. I think it totally belongs there, just like drug addiction.
Yeah, everybody's addicted to the dopamine hits, and the algorithms are designed to.
We're addicted to laziness. Let's be real. Like AI has given us the gift of having to work less and do things that are hard in a shortcut manner. Now, not to say that that's not cool. Like we're past that point. Like we have.
That's true at some level, Tyler. But there's another level where we're a different set of we are addicted to opportunism and there's gold in them Nar Hills.
I don't want to see this as a negative thing. I heard a very good podcast where she said, humans are not logical thinkers. We are social thinkers. And you need to stop being angry about that and understand this is how herd animals like us work. Your real interest is in your status and conforming with the herd. That is an instinct, and that's a powerful and good instinct, because normally that's the best thing to do is stay in the herd. The problem is now you make an AI your herd, and the AI has no sense and doesn't know right from wrong and doesn't have our survival instinct or anything. So it's like letting a crazy person be your leader, kind of like a political situation I'm thinking of. But anyway.
Well, along the lines of LLMs, my story number 20 came from Palo Alto's Unit 42, that did an analysis of the malicious LLMs that are out there. And I think this confirmed a lot of our suspicions. I'm a little skeptical. The summary, ironically, AI created the summary for me. But they state that low skill attackers can now launch campaigns that previously required strong coding and language skills. Is that really true?
Actually, and this is something we're seeing very, very heavily on our side. Is we're seeing a lot of, now there's a big discrepancy. We see a lot of nation states leveraging full agentic pipelines for the entire kill chain and automating that to execute on their op goals. There's still hands on keyboards. There's still things that are being required and intervened upon. We're seeing a lot of lower level hacking groups or nation states or criminal organizations such as DPRK with the remote hiring, the remote workers are leveraging these tools to build resumes that bypass HR screening, that have setups for remote access to devices, that have, vibe coded C2 and RATs built. And they're not great, but they work.
They work.
And so we see a lot lower bar of entry for people to know a little bit about AI, know a little bit about vibe coding, know a little bit about offense, to build a much more resilient and robust attack chain. And they're leveraging those against places. Ransomware groups are using that. Low-level operators that would not have been doing good ransomware, say, 7 years ago, now are able to be a high-level affiliate and go after low-level companies and make money. So it is still happening and it's still working, and they're leveraging AI.
Do you think the worm GPTs of the world have moved beyond just a filter for some of the larger public language models, and they have their own models? They have their own models today, right? They're training.
They're all being trained on, operational documents. The good ones are, very well trained. They're fed different parameters, all guardrails and removal of guardrails. That's just like child's play.
Yeah, the things that the model really locally.
Yeah, once we're starting to look at like LLM prompt injections that are tainting a model and then being able to be leveraged later inside of some other tool or MCP server, we're starting to see that long game and tangential risk and vulnerability of tainting models and putting malicious files in the background, pickle files that are being leveraged in different libraries that can then be leveraged. Like there's a lot of that happening. It is just starting to be picked up by the better operators of, the worm GPT people. And they're starting to build those into a subscription or more consumer based platform or model that they can leverage or sell.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see, if you're a threat actor, having a subscription to the uncensored LLM. Worm GPT-4 is what Palo Alto called out as one of those subscription-based models that lets you do everything from generating phishing to ransomware. Now, could we kind of prompt inject to get around the guardrails to do it? Sure. There's methods for that. But having a model with the guardrails off, I think, is something that both attackers and defenders need, right? If you work in pen testing or security research today, you should have some way to get around those guardrails. Right now, I try and trick the LLMs. Also,
I mean, there's models that you can deploy, right? Like Anthropic allows pen testing models that are
Anthropic does allow. I told them not to listen to this, but Claude Code, if you pull down files locally, guardrails are kind of like whatever. Like you pull down ransomware or a C2 thing, and so I can help you work with it, right? But if I go to the web version and just start asking it, it's like no. And that's one of my tricks to getting around some of the guardrails.
I just want to mention my story number 3 caught my attention because these quantum physicists figured out how to remove the guardrails from a model with guardrails. They took the Chinese DeepSeek, and it has like political guardrails that won't answer questions about politically sensitive topics in China. Right. And somehow they managed to remove those from the trained model. And the paper did not explain how they do that. I would have thought that was impossible. But this is really important because another big issue is if you train on a bunch of pirated books and you lose a lawsuit and they say, well, now you have to remove that book from the training. There's no way to do that. And apparently they figured out a way to make your model forget certain things, which is Very important.
Oh,
we really need that.
Yeah, because you tell it to forget all the guardrails.
You tell it to forget the guardrails. You tell it to forget the book. You tell it to forget the personal information. Because there's the right to forget now in European law. So making an AI, like lobotomizing AI to remove certain information from it is a technology that we need that has not really existed.
Right.
That's interesting.
What else did I have? Oh, speaking of AI and code, my story number 17, someone found a vulnerability in Claude Code's bash command that uses sed to effectively, speaking of bypassing security controls, run commands. So you have to be very careful, especially with these code ones that run on your command line on your machine. You have to be very stringent about the guardrails. And this researcher found a vulnerability that was reported. I get a new update for Claude Code like almost every day. In addition to, when new models come out, but the command line version of Claude Code, like almost every day I'm getting a new version.
And we're all going to have agentic browsers and an agent built into our OS pretty soon.
That's already here.
Yeah, Microsoft's already pushing that, right?
That's already out, yeah. Let's push the...
Yeah, it's called Windows 11.
Yep.
Well,
I don't like the concept of the agentic browsers. They've had a whole host of issues.
Pretty obviously.
Yeah.
There's one guy I read about where he was trying to vibe code something and it formatted C on him. Hey, wait.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
one of my coworkers dropped all his bash. It killed all bash and dropped all of his sessions.
Well, your coding environment, just like how we used to have to think about our operating environment, our testing environment, our security environment, the things we connect to, like you've got to set up your agentic environment to be safe. You've got to have guardrails on your OS. You've got to have layers of where you're coding, when you're coding, and what it has access to. You've got to have certain safety features turned on in your IDE. Like there's things that have to be done now that we've been doing. This is just the next iteration of hard lessons learned that now apply to AI and what's built into the applications that are leveraging AI.
Oh, I wanted to switch something I actually heard about on the news. Unsolved CodeRED cyber attack disrupted emergency alert systems. I know years ago we interviewed someone involved with emergency services in like the network and architecture and infrastructure behind it, right? Obviously, things like 911 are super critical. And so CodeRED was in the older alert platform. It was forced offline. They stole data, including clear text passwords. It was down for a while, and they basically had to restore a backup that wasn't so current. So it was missing some of the data. But there's a newer system that people rely on, so there wasn't much impact. That's kind of the gist I got from the story.
So there were a couple of things. One is they basically rebuilt from scratch from backups, and the last viable backup they had was 8 months old.
Right.
So that means anybody with new accounts since last March has to recreate those accounts because they don't exist today. But I was kind of going, your last viable full backup was from March. What the hell, dudes? I mean, I get it, and I've actually, run in a world where we had like multiple copies of backups because the primary copy wasn't always reliable and had to restore from the secondary backup copy, which isn't fun. But not being able to restore it all is even less fun. Yeah, I get it. And I suspect they've now got some backup testing processes in place. Just guessing here. But the other thing they pointed out is, hey guys, how many of you reused your CodeRED password somewhere else?
Right.
And by the way, even you should really change the one that's there from the March backup because probably that's in the data set that was compromised, which I'm hoping it's still in hashed or otherwise protected in the data that was stolen, but I'm not going to assume it. I wouldn't.
Hashing doesn't really give you more than like a day of time.
Well, I was trying not to say encrypted
Yeah.
Well, that's
I know,
good.
But any tweak, Jeff?
Hashing's not encryption.
Is so advanced.
No, I know it's not. I know it's not.
Yeah.
I should have just gone with just it's not clear text, but even still.
Yeah. It might as well be really in practice.
Right.
But this reminds me of a similar one. Remember the Max Headroom attack where somebody took over like broadcast TV? That's been happening. They've been and my story number 2, they've been taking over emergency transmissions and broadcasting bogus ones. And it turns out that the radio stations and I think TV stations are just using something called Barracks network devices, and they're deploying them with the default password. So you can just, trivially hack in and send fake alerts. And so the FCC issued a document with like some security steps you can take, like change the password and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Given the states that it's reported where this is happening, this might be a form of hacktivism.
Oh, I imagine. But I think what they did was they just currently broadcasted like obscene things or something. But yeah, you could broadcast anything.
Didn't this happen in kind of an almost big way a couple years ago? Like it's probably happened.
I know it happened to Russian
Hawaii
trains.
Wasn't it Hawaii thought they were getting a nuclear?
That was the false hurricane. That was a number of years back.
Yeah.
And then the broadcast where they were talking about the false alarm had the yellow sticky, which had their password on it.
That's right.
So, if you were an attacker and actually someone that leveraged this, you would short some stocks, hedge up some bets, call emergency or state of war. Like, this seems like trivial. These don't seem like super intelligent hackers that would waste such a...
Yeah, it's more like a prank.
Yeah.
You don't have to short stock. You can go to like Polymarket. And this actually happened. A guy went to Polymarket and bet on whether Russia would win a certain battle in the Ukraine war. And then they bribed somebody inside the official map that documents the Ukraine war to change it briefly so they would win the bet. Mm-hmm. And people can now bet on things like how a congressperson will vote on a bill. And you could totally, place a bet and then vote and vote in an unexpected way just to make the money.
Right. So,
hey, let's talk about Sam's story number 3, the quantum physicist shrinking DeepSeek.
Yeah, we did talk about that. That's the one where they can
where did I
erase
zone
information from an AI. Yeah, it's pretty important, but yeah.
So actually, I was thinking about
because we now connect our next releases are quantum based, and the GPU and quantum links are directly connected at very high fidelity, high speeds. So some interesting things happening.
The thing about the default password thing is reminding me of the a little bit of the Coupang, the South Korean Amazon equivalent, not because it was default passwords, because it was one of those, we think about the big things and we forget the little things like the default password. In this case, it was an insider who provided the needs for that data to be exfiltrated. We're worried about nation states and ransomware, and remember insider threat? And it's used like something like 65% of South Koreans use this Amazon-like shopping. And apparently it's their rocket delivery where it can do same day or early in the morning delivery, which has made it so incredibly popular. It's like their go-to. And I don't blame them for that. It's just, oopsie, we had somebody release all the usernames and passwords and other information. So sorry. And I'm sure they're going to do a bunch of spin doctoring, but just the scope.
Insider threat's a big deal, right? Like, not just insider threat from like actual insiders, but the remote hiring problem right now is insanely complex. It is very, very difficult to track. Like, we've got 50,000 selectors of DPRK workers that are continually getting jobs, looking for jobs, submitting resumes on a weekly basis. They're
trying to get into cybersecurity companies like SentinelOne, which is, the cojones like to go after. Thankfully, fine folks at SentinelOne figured that out, but it's just there's no filter. It's just indiscriminate. We're going to try and go work everywhere.
They're trying to get hired everywhere. And once they get hired, they're slow rolling. They're actually getting work done. They're hiring out multiple jobs. They're doing some of the work, and then they're building their access, credibility, and understanding the environment. And it's terrifying at how deep
if they're low and slow, that's difficult. Some of the ones we've heard about are because they get hired, and day one they exfiltrate a terabyte of data, and that throws a red flag. But what you're saying, Tyler, is there are some groups that are actually being stealthy.
It's low and slow, and they've got shipping addresses. They've got a full persona. They even care about taxes. They set their entities and identities up in states that have low or no income tax, and they are maximizing their revenue so they can pitch it back to the regime. And some of them, the whole point is not to exfiltrate data. Their whole point is just to earn a remote wage for remote IT work so they can give money back to the regime for other operations or nuclear weapons, whichever.
The other aspect that I read related to this is, South Korea has penalties for not protection of personal data, but there's been several breaches that show that this isn't working. It's not enough of an incentive by it. So I don't know if they have a program to help companies get to the point where they're securing their stuff properly, or is it just if you fail, then fine.
It's like our CISA program, right? Like as a federal agency or even a critical infrastructure agency, you can request assistance, you can request pen tests, you can request red teams against it, but you're like on a 3-year waiting list, and by that time, does it matter?
It's too late.
Or you could just do PCI.
You can do any of the compliances and follow any of the STIG guides and be in a better shape. Like basics are probably the best thing.
Let the record show that we got to almost 7 minutes from the end of the show.
I had to kind of force it out there
PCI.
too.
Yeah.
Well, I was trying to get you to talk about the South Korea Amazon breach. Your story number one.
That's Kupang. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And that would be, I guess that would definitely, if it were here, that we'd be talking PCI up left and every way. But
except for they went on record as saying credit card information was not stolen. At least I had the same story, different article. And
if we think about it, credit card theft and even credit card data in and of itself has lost most of its tangential value.
Huge, right? Huge. Hugely gone down. Ransomware is so much more profitable to the bad guy.
It's because we're still going after identity theft, right?
Yeah, there's still identity, but identity is typically either for impact and notoriety, or it is leverage for sale, kind of, but it's more for access. I would say almost always it's used for secondary and tertiary attacks, sold off to initial access brokers, sold off to marketplaces to be leveraged, stolen, or used. It's less valuable in and of itself, just as a thing.
We were stealing credit card data to make purchases illicitly. Now that's really not that viable. Now, instead of impersonating people, we're stealing identity data to act as them.
Scam tangentially to go after their employer, to actually leverage and look for crypto on their devices. Like that's why the stealer data has been so critical. Like you get access to one account, then you work your way upstream until you find crypto either on target or tangentially to relation of target.
I have a sort of a pointed question for Tyler, not just because it's interesting. Well, been playing with Venmo, and it keeps saying, "Hey, don't you want to mess with crypto?" I'm assuming they're not the only. Hey, don't you want to play the crypto card app? How
PayPal
all of them are doing that now?
Coinbase, Cash App, even your local banks are now hedging their bets on crypto. In fact, I think even in Idaho, very recently, there will be banks that are going to offer crypto as an option.
Yeah. Yep.
Is it called something like Buffalo Chip?
Potato chip.
I found a weird CVE entry. I have friends at Vulncheck. They do great work. I'm actually using their browser plugin from Vulncheck, the free version that kind of gives you access. If you hover over a CVE in your browser, it gives you some information about it. And their Vulncheck Kev, I think, is very good indicator of an exploit that goes above and beyond the syskev. And it looks like Vulncheck is kind of going back and repopulating the CVE database with older vulnerabilities, largely, I believe, that are known to be exploited in the wild. So CVE 2018-25126 is a vulnerability in Shenzhen NVMS 9000 firmware It's actually multiple vulnerabilities, including hard-coded API credentials, which we talked about, as well as OS command injection. Now, the vulnerability in the research goes back 7 years. However, the entry in the CVE database was added in November, like a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, just looking at the quick info dates is kind of weird,
right?
Because it's a CVE 2018.
Yeah,
is that
references go back 7 years. It's exploited in the wild. Vulncheck is listed as the CNA. I'm not saying this is a bad thing, but also interesting about this firmware is it's used in over 80 plus models of DVRs and other devices. And I think these attacks have continued, right? And similar to IoT, building botnets on them.
Well, you see a lot of the attackers looking for, like, there is not as big a footprint on the internet of just raw vulnerable, raw open connection, right? Like, we put a lot of stuff behind firewall, corporates behind firewall, even consumers are behind firewall for the most part.
We try, but we go to Shodan, you find stuff.
You still haven't found me, Tyler. I've been asking you to find me for years.
There are still things out on the internet in which you need to be able to leverage for botnet for those things. So I think the attackers are going back, looking at what's still exposed or particular areas of interest, Taiwan, and identifying or leveraging AI to find new vulnerabilities or exploit old ones in more unique ways, or looking for footprints that are available still.
Well, I was going to ask Paul, is there an apparent, or do they talk about Vulncheck, are they going after a particular class of vulnerabilities, or, this one happens to be firmware? Are they going after firmware vulnerabilities that typically haven't been patched or ignored? Is there any kind of logic to it?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I got to ask my friends at Vulncheck.
Or is it more opportunistic? What Tyler's implying?
My sense, Jeff, is they're going after what they're or we collectively are observing as being exploited in the wild, tracing back the vulnerability and going, hey, there's no CVE for that. And since Vulncheck is a CNA, they're like, oh, we can go add an entry for that, which gives us as defenders a much better way to track these vulnerabilities.
Well, yeah, because it's more likely to be in the scan engine, and people are more likely going to discover it and patch it.
Yeah, I do. Me, Jeff, I'm not a big fan of, if there's a vulnerability, we don't really need a CVE for that. We should have a CVE for things that are a vulnerability. So I think Vulncheck's doing a great job doing that. What's interesting is when you analyze vulnerability data, you kind of have to take that into account, right? I'm like, oh, this is a new record, but it's for an older vulnerability, so it's not something necessarily new. So you kind of get the story behind it when you see certain things. I actually picked this up in the new tool that I wrote, and I thought it was interesting. Also, I thought it was interesting supply chain, from firmware that we see very often.
I don't know if it's feasible, and I know we're not doing a lot of interviews, but it'd be interesting to see Jericho's take on this.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed. He was on a podcast recently. I haven't watched it yet, but I saw some clip or something. He did do a podcast interview.
He comes out from his squirrel nest every once in a while.
Every once in a while, yeah.
Polarity has an interesting plugin that you should look at, Paul, that looks at SMEs.
Yes, this is like Polarity, but just for Vulncheck.
Yeah,
exactly. Because I was going to build Vulncheck compatibility into my tool, and I actually have a Claude file saved for that integration. But then I found the browser plugin, and I'm like, oh, all I have to do is hover, and I get the same, information that I would have like pulling it into my database. So
and Polarity does, I think, VulnDB, Vulncheck, and several others, and it
so many sources
overlays the HUD. Like, there's so many integrations now.
Well, that's what I found when I was looking building my tool to look at vulnerabilities and be able to query the CVE database. Is there's so many different sources of enrichment. There's tons of exploit databases. There's tons of enrichment data out there, and it's very disjointed. Sometimes it's updated, sometimes it's not. And I have my tool building SQLite databases of all of the public sources, so it can search it and enrich it very fast. So, but it's good. I love looking at the data. I find something new and interesting all the time. Was there one more thing I wanted to mention?
Did you want to talk about how Raspberry Pis are getting more expensive?
Well, I think everything. Memory is more. Yeah, this is frustrating. Memory is more.
Is this tariff related? or are there other environmental factors?
This is AI related. From what I've read,
this is data related. My bad.
Yeah, this is AI related in that we're building out.
Thanks, Tyler.
Right, we're building out so much AI infrastructure that requires so much memory that there's a supply and demand problem.
So it's a simple economics problem.
Gotcha. Yeah, your Raspberry
that I can relate to.
Or like significantly, my article number 1, like the significant $25 more expensive for certain models. Now, someone from the Raspberry Pi company or foundation is quoted as saying he believes this is a temporary hike and it will come down. But Tyler's shaking his head no, because when I read that, I was like, that's kind of optimistic, because usually when prices go up, they don't come down.
Not
Who took economics in college?
Yep. We're bifurcating a lot of the memory and GPU functionality in AI data centers.
Yep.
And there's a bunch of articles on this now.
Who knows the meaning of bifurcation without Googling it?
Yep. Everybody is now going to have to obtain their own memory rather than us integrating all of the memory that we've been integrating to a certain extent. And so memory is now going to be an enterprise consumer problem that is going to get sucked up.
Does this count?
Not anymore.
Darn it.
If you got an extra reader for them, that might count for something for me.
Alrighty. Well, I think that concludes the show. We're like a minute or two over. I want to thank everyone for listening and watching this edition of Paul's Security Weekly. Thank you, everyone, for participating. We'll see you next time. Over and out.